with the channel. I'm just going to do a quick collective reading here, and really feeling defensiveness is part of this progression here. I think of healing these generational curses and all that comes with Ascension and kind of breaking out of these systems. There's been such a overwhelming confirmation of those of us who have found out that there's people get readings on us and know our callings and things like that, and so there's a concentrated effort to keep us from knowing our destiny, our power, whatever. And so there's a breaking out of the matrix that's required, and to survive the matrix, we've had to be so protective of our inner child if we made it this far, and through reparenting and that kind of thing. But there's also it's probably not already, Four of Wands, and High Priestess in reverse. Okay, that's fitting. So, what do you do with your intuition when you see everything? How can you use that to serve you, right? Just because they'll still catch you off guard. They'll switch up, or they'll try to put you back into that box and get you to become the old person, or to so many mountains, so many molehills, right? So, and that's so that you're controlled or don't do anything that's good for you. So, here we go now. One more. That's two more. It's actually spelled right out. So we have the Five of Swords and Justice, and previously we had the Four of Wands and High Priestess in reverse here. So there's some associated messages here and lyrics that are assigned to each card here, as we do in this model. So let's see here. Okay, here. So with the Four of Wands, it's harmony, I think, is kind of what we're trying to achieve here, right? And that's this picture here. And it's kind of getting, there's a lightheartedness, and so maybe the way that you initially try to do this is just kind of disarm it with humor. When you start to feel defensive, you've maybe learned to channel it a little bit, and so it's an art form for sure to sort of just still say what you need to say, but maybe use a little bit of humor to disarm it. Or it's you go so over the top that it's you're making a joke, you're poking fun out of it. Like, I could really think about what you're doing. I could react like this way, but I'm not that person. That would be crazy, that kind of thing. And it kind of disarms the person. And I'm gonna just out the gate, I'm glad this came out that way, because that has been, when people do that with me, it has been so preferred to going on edge. But I will say, that's where I'm doing the work too. It's because I have been so conditioned to be like, wait for someone's mask to drop and see, oh, okay, actually you hate me. I knew it, just like everybody else, and then bail, right? Because there have been so many times where people have just, that's the nature of this calling, until you find your actual soul tribe. But here, what can happen too is if you meet another one who's used to the same thing, right? Who's actually been surrounded by karmics and oppressors or whatever, and then it's just like they've learned to mask and those kind of things, and they've learned to not sugarcoat necessarily when it's there's a defensiveness that's coming out within them, but there's also kind of a way of they're being assertive, which is correct, in such a way so that they are protecting their inner child, their own boundaries with you. And a lot of times it's not, they're just misunderstanding something that you were doing, or they can dish it out, but they can't take it. All these different dynamics. A lot of times you don't necessarily even mean what they think you mean. But there's these warning shots. And so it's just saying that they have boundaries, right? But it's not rejection. It gets tricky from there, because then your mind can play tricks and all these things and say, well, it seems like they interact with other people, and that person just can has navigated them, and they can get around all the comparison and all these different things, and we can find a way to make it be about rejection. And so that's where we need to go and do the work and see, well, where are my insecurities here that are manifesting in this way, that are causing me to get into comparison, or to put such a premium on this connection that I'm pushing it into that direction. Because what you give attention to grows, and the more that you focus on your incompatibility and your inability to manage these things, especially early on in the connections, the more that can actually, that causes them to see it, and it becomes a thing. And the next time that you're hanging out, that's just kind of hanging over it, until you've really learned to navigate that kind of disconnection and that kind of repair. So this is where a lot of relationships go south and get into manipulation. Because narcissists can't love, so all they can do is find ways to control. They're not interested in a two-way give and take usually. So that's where the coercive elements get introduced to there, with either masking or they can mirror your love for a time. But so getting into this High Priestess reversed here, it's this is that kind of misunderstanding, and that's learning to pause. I mean, if you can just pause and reflect before you go there, you say, hey, I need a minute to process what you're saying, or I'm feeling a lot of feelings. Hang on just a second, anything like that, and that's when you're not self-abandoning, you're not pushing burying the feelings or any of those kind of things. But you do need to sit yourself and sort this out. And I know those the people who take that as rejection, you're just gonna have to let them feel what they feel. But you don't have to manage their emotions there, but you do have to take accountability and responsibility for your own actions. And that's where a lot of this goes down to, is that vulnerability has been, that for a lot of us, not a thing, but it's really worth it for quality connections and to the places where called to go here. So sometimes you're not even sure what you're actually upset about. There's a fear, that's from previous experiences that you're projecting onto the situation, and so you're trying to figure out where the person's actually coming from, seeking first to understand. It's just, there is a part of us that wants to stand up for yourself and protect the inner child. Just aren't always clear what and why that part is there. So, and defensiveness, even of itself, the term defensiveness, a lot of times it's just like, that makes us defensive because it's been weaponized against us so often. A lot of the things that we need, they attack those. But, this is, perfect card here, Five of Swords here. And that's that. And your friends go, no, that's not what I meant. I'm just, and there's you're kind of trying to repair, and this is what we're trying to do, is get really good at repair, because these are good connections, but you're managing the tension, the conflict, and it's just like, that you still feel the agitation, and there's that, and it's because there's been a pattern of dopamine and release, and the cortisol, and it's that, because that's narcissists, like, they shake you and they comfort you, and they just, like, smack you and they comfort you, and you're so addicted to that comfort after, and that's the only way you usually even get that comfort, and so it's just it's that Pavlovian response, and they've conditioned you to, and that's why you keep coming back to them, is because that's that. I'm not going to go through that again, but so the other part of this is just like, well, how do you navigate this? You're like, well, I don't really feel respected here, and where's it, like, where can you embrace the cross, embrace humility, and see, and let that turn into some kind of resurrection life there, but you don't want to lose respect for yourself in the process, and there may be a way to adjust the behavior. But first and foremost, it isn't about just like necessarily getting your own justice, and this is where we all need to do work. It's because it's that hot stove thing. They've hurt you, so you hurt them back. It's like a hot stove, a narcissist trying to get you to turn your burners off so that they can, jack up your stove, right? And so you've learned, I've got to protect I've got to be a hot stove. Let them try that again, get them smack, get that little smack in the face, and then we wonder why, people are resorting to all different kinds of other methods to keep people around, but by breaking them, or cultivating people with, BPD, or all the stuff that these, people that have come out of this and fallen do. As someone who's been cultivated, I can tell you, it's it's a process, but that's what, these people get really skilled at building the life they want to without respecting the autonomy of those around them in a mutual win-win relationship. It's they become the chosen one in a completely fallen sense, right? And we're not unpacking that there. But because the thing is like, I feel like they're disrespecting me, and I don't really respect myself, so I should just leave it alone. That's the negative way. Or the other way is to go to like, well, okay, they're, they have teeth, so it's like the cat that keeps batting the mouse down so that there's no teeth, if they're, mirroring that narcissistic behavior. But, there's 1,000 ways that this goes wrong or south. I'm trying to just like identify them of like, because your brain's like, well, this way works better, right? But it's more about like, hey, you don't have to make it about them. I don't feel comfortable with the way you bring this up. You could just, you can be like, when this happens, I feel this way, so it needs to not happen that way. Can you say it this way that is good for me, of the way that I like to receive feedback, and that, whatever it is, kind of them, and eventually you get to the place where it's just like, you're strong enough to hold space for someone else's anger in a real, certain kind of close relationships. But sometimes that's just, that's for their therapist, or, it's different ways to manage this. But with this justice here, it's saying that, you probably know this, but do we really do it? Hey, I'm interpreting the way you're saying this way. Am I getting that right, or am I just making this up? So you want to get really clear on the situation, how to deal with every possible version of these things. And so you can address the subtext, right? Because that's really what it is. It's not just, and some of these people, they're a master of just like saying something, and that they can be like, oh, no, oh, you took it that way. No, I just meant this. But contextually, you're like, these plausible deniability masters. It's, just call it out, So when you said this and this and this and this, but I mean, they're going to be ready for that. And then if they're narcissistic and they're going to say it's, oh, you're just paranoid, or, oh, you're really overthinking that. I mean, they're going to just try to find a way to like smack you in the face as hard as they can, because they've been called out and they hate that. And then retaliation, all that kind of stuff. But then there's a narcissist, and to limit your interaction. This is a place where it's just like, in a sense, there's an element too of finding the 2%, the 1%, where you can be Christ-like, where you can be just in such a high vibration that you can integrate it, alchemize it, and turn it into this thing. Because you don't need to. This is a them problem, right? You don't need to go down to their level and see what that, if you have a relationship with Source who fully understands you and knows the subtext of the meaning and what you meant, right, and sees your good and your bad and your potential. And I think that's a huge part of it too, is you feel like this person doesn't see your potential, and so you want to over-explain for context so that because we all should be relating to each other, and we feel this kind of thing of like, we're just like, whatever, we're all the star quarterback or the star receiver, whatever it is, use a football analogy, and we want that coach that comes in, and it's like, you are, you're amazing, you got to work on this little thing right here, and whatever it is, instead of, you're mostly awful, and you're so far beneath me, and and that's the narcissistic model, is to belittle and control and demean. And so a lot of the greatest people have gotten feedback. The people who just think all their ideas are amazing, and just like they feel so defeated when someone points something out. It's because of the insecurities, but it's because this isn't the chosen one. Narcissistic system is designed to get everybody to overreact to that, and to never really actualize. And so you have to continue to build yourself up, find those people around you that build you up, those who see you that kind of way and don't overreact, and be strong enough into yourself that you can handle someone else's bad days and handle someone else's minimizing the connection and all these things like that, without the overreaction, or without teaching them a lesson, or all these kind of things. And because people can go real dark places, and we can be kind of blind to how much we put them there. We can just be blind to so many, how strong our words are and how much our opinions are, because everybody has to work. They've built a whole persona around not letting us see how much we affect them and what pedestal we're truly on. And it's so you don't know the power of your words. Is I feel like for a lot of you in this collective. So, but it's much has been given, much is required. With the Lord, and this is all about understanding, context. And so, if you're built up enough of yourself, you're secure enough. And that's what a lot of us are trying to do, is build each other up. You can handle criticism for all different kinds of sources, and it's free research, it's notes, it's don't overdo it. And you don't feel like you have to let them know necessarily. I only think I do that 2% of the time, but maybe you do. Maybe you need to do an honest assessment of what is the reality is of the equation in certain context. But seeing your potential and seeing you for the entirety of who you are is a huge part of this, and building up around that, which is the correct method. The old method was, which led to just broken friendships, or just people that were just manipulated, or all these other broken ways, was to overdo it. And so we've got to see, if they're not going to be the ones who are going to see our potential and to say, hey, you've got this little thing here, pull that out, and everything else is solid. And then it's progressively those kind of things, that free feedback, and it's according to and if you really master this, and you've gotten yourself in such an identity of the power you have, you're co-creating with spirit, you have all these goals and these concepts, you want to find stuff out that are problems. You don't want yes men now, before things get incredibly out of hand. When you've trained everybody to never. This is how people get to an emperor has no clothes friend group, because they're scared to death of telling you of what you really need to know. Is it cultivating, just how are things going? Little check-ins. That is, and those of you who have the work to do are horrified at this concept. I get that, and that's where you're still at the internal work of reparenting and learning to be vulnerable, and need to have the friends that are building you up now. But it's there are no shortcuts to this kind of stuff, unfortunately. Those shortcuts usually just lead back further than where you are now. But there is a place where you can just be check in, especially if you're not misleading the person, and there's honesty in where things are at, and what the kind of mutual benefit is of the situation. Then you can say so how are things going? What are my blind spots? What are the things you can do? And people may try to invent something, and you got to be ready and committed, and have some repair, because sometimes it goes south, and be able to take a beat and come back and revisit it. And again, you're not getting your identity from the friendship. So if it takes a backseat for a minute, and then comes back stronger because you can do this kind of thing, it's just, we got to be so careful about the write-off. Writing is required.